Welcome to the Connecting Dots podcast. In this podcast, we try to connect dots that lead to aha moments. You know, like when a light turns on and suddenly you know what action you can take to resolve that thing that's been eating at you. I hope in today's episode, you will find some dots that you've been looking for. I'm Carol Webster. All right, here we are. We're going to have a lot of fun today. I have invited Dr. Blackwell to join us and give us some really important information that you might be looking for. So first of all, let me introduce Bryon Blackwell. He is a chiropractor, doctor of chiropractics is how you would say it. And we were having a conversation recently and I'm like, people need to know this. They need to understand what is the difference between a medical doctor. Do you call it a doctor of osteopathy? Is that what
Osteopathic doctor.
Osteopathic doctor, yeah. And a chiropractor or a doctor of
chiropractic medicine.
Chiropractic medicine. And so I'm just going to turn it over to you and tell us, what is the difference in training between those? Am I missing? Is there a fourth option that I should be thinking about?
Naturopathic doctors, those that actually go to NMD, a naturopathic medical school that have prescription rights in, I think it's 18 states. Okay, so they're combining like herbs and natural remedies along with pharmaceuticals? Is that what that means? They can do pharmaceuticals, they can do minor surgery, depending upon the state, but they do have pharmaceutical rights, prescribing rights. And they originally did homeopathics, they moved kind of away from that. It's still top, it's not a main focus.
So if somebody...
They go more into chemistry.
Who's more likely to use homeopathy now? Is it not used very much?
It really isn't. It's not taught as much. So naturopathic schools by default originally really focused on homeopathy, but they've really shifted, well, at least the couple schools that I know of back west have all shifted away from that.
Okay.
So they definitely do herbs, they'll do vitamins, but they do pharmaceuticals, and a lot of them just are no different than a family doctor.
Okay. So it sounds like things have shifted through history in terms of what the training is. And we could kind of go into that history. I remember somebody saying that a doctor of osteopath used to be very much like a combination of a medical doctor and a chiropractor. And then that somewhere along the line just started leaning more and more and more towards a medical doctor. And now there's not a lot of difference
No, so A.T. Still was the founder of osteopathy, and A.T. Still believed that vitality came through the blood. And the chiropractic was David Palmer. He thought it was the nervous system. Reality is it's a combo of both. You have to have both. And what happened is during the time the osteopaths really predate that. 1924, Dr. was it Friedman? I think it's Friedman was his name. Anyways, he became the AMA president. Fishbane. So Dr. Fishbane became the AMA president. He was backed by the Rockefellers. The Rockefellers, who were in the oil industry, found out that they could make a lot of synthetic vitamins from petroleum byproducts. And so they started funding medical schools. And at that time, to get your medical license, it was through the American Medical Association, which Fishbane was in charge of. And so they had an agreement that the only thing that would be taught would be pharmaceuticals, which were derivative from oil-based products originally. And prior to that, turn of the century, you had electrical medicine, medical organizations, which were huge conferences. Most family doctors at that time did naturopathy, homeopathy, a little bit of everything. It was more patient-centered than what it used to be. And so then when Fishbane came in, he was, if I remember correctly, I think he was called the Little Mussolini at one point during that time frame. But his reign went on for like something like 30 years until 1980s, 89, 87, when a few chiropractors took the AMA, the American Surgical Association, and a third group to the Supreme Court, because it came out that they had officially conspired to eliminate all healthcare practices, which they did. Prior to the 20s, you had homeopathic hospitals, homeopathic medical schools, naturopathic medical schools, you had magnetism, you had a whole bunch of different healing arts that all had schools, hospitals that helped heal people. And then once Rockefellers got involved with Fishbane, they eliminated all of those.
Became a business
industries.
move.
Yeah,
to...
it's all ran by money,
right,
in the end. And so now, though, time has progressed, everyone's progressed, more on board with science. Now when you go to grad school, whether it's for allopathic, which is MD, allopathic school, osteopathic, chiropractic, or naturopathic medical doctors, your first 2 years are roughly all the same for everybody. Your first 2 years are just pure science. That's all you're doing. Then within each specialty, you'll have more focus in certain areas. So like for chiropractors, we do a lot more in neuroanatomy, neurology. We really heavy on that. So prime example, in pharmaceuticals, allopathic medical doctors and osteopaths, they do about 120 hours just in the pharmaceutical class.
Okay.
For us, we do 25 hours in it because that's not our specialty. But that other group of hours gets sent over to neurology, because we deal a lot with the brain, the nervous system, how things are firing. So in our profession, we focus heavily on that. After the 2 years, then that's where really you get the big split within the 4 different industries. Allopathic and osteopathic, they go on to do their clinicals. So for 2 years, every quarter they're visiting another specialty, and that helps them to find out what they want to go and focus on once they pass their boards and they get accepted into whatever program it is. For chiropractors, we do a whole nother year of us in classrooms. So we're doing radiology, we're doing nutrition, and then we're doing also what most people know chiropractors for is the adjustment. Dr. Alatar, who was is still a cardiologist, who was one of my professors, he explained it really well, saying chiropractors come out with a base, a specialty already. And so from the very beginning of our education, we're focusing on the nervous system, the importance of the joints, proprioception, nociception, all these things that deal with joints, the way the brain receives stuff. So we already have a specialty coming out, whereas with allopathic, which is medical doctors, and your osteopathics, they're not. They are still just in the basic sciences, and then they go and do their clinicals to find out what route they want to go to.
They're going to specialize.
Yeah, so family doctor, geriatrics, gynecology, obstetrics, oncology, nephrology, that whole list they could go through to help guide them. The NMDs, naturopathic medical doctors, they do just same thing. They do a year of clinicals, if I remember correctly, and then they sit for their boards. And yeah, that covers all of our groups. And then afterwards, what most people realize, just like with medical doctors, once you finish your 4 years, same thing, osteopaths, that was the completion of their degree, but their specialty is then when they go off and do residency training. And so within my profession, we can go and specialize in different areas. I mean, you have forensic science, you have pediatrics, you have neurology, you have nutrition, you have internal medicine.
You're talking within
chiropractic,
all of those specialties. Also,
those are actual specialties, diplomatic status.
Are there some that they just stay very general and never go into any of those specialties?
Yeah, most people will just take the foundation that they gained just doing their 4 years, and just focus on adjusting people. So
I think it's really interesting that you're talking about the nervous system, and I think most people, when they think about chiropractors, they're like, they're cracking bones, and we always think it's about the bones. So maybe you could give us a little insight. Why are we thinking bones when it really is the neural
It's the nervous system, yeah. I don't know where the cracking bones came from. That term is horrific. Crack means to break. It's quite not at all what we do.
Right.
It's not what you want. But what we're doing and what research has found, there's bioengineers so bioengineers are specialists that have doctorate degrees, and they just look into the science. So they run reports, and they've run reports within to see what does a chiropractic adjustment do. And they've been able to repeat that from different specialists looking into that, running that research to find out, okay, is this a consistent thing? What they've found is when you look at a joint has many different nerve endings that go to it, and our actual reality, how we perceive everything, each joint has proprioceptive nerves in it. And that is actually how our brain knows what's going on in that area. And so whenever you have a disruption in that, literally your perception is off to time and space. So what we're doing is what they found is when you apply a pressure into that area and you help to relieve it, it's basically like a reset. That it brings the brain's attention to that area and helps to reset the area.
So I think I can speak to my experience where sometimes I just kind of feel off. I feel, I don't know, cloudy, or like I don't know where I am. I'm just, sometimes I feel very clear, sometimes I don't feel as clear. So if I'm following what you're saying, probably there is some place in my body that the neural pathways are kind of having to work harder. Is that accurate? Or
yeah, it could very well be the case. You do have, so prime example, I treated another doctor on Tuesday, and basically your head on your neck, it was really off. So adjusted it, and afterwards he goes, oh my gosh, I had brain fog. That is now cleared up. And that could be the case, or it could be something chemical that we've been exposed to or that we're eating, and that can cause brain fog as well.
Right. So that's the tricky part, is you can have symptoms, but you don't necessarily know what's causing the symptom just because it's like, I've got a headache, but there could be so many reasons why you may have a headache. So, all right, so let's move into my next question, which most people, I think, are like, okay, I know I need to have some help. I have no idea. Do I look up in the yellow pages I look on my insurance list for a doctor? It's so hard to figure out, how do you find what you need? And you might decide that you want to go to a medical doctor or a chiropractor, but it's not as easy as just making that one decision. What's some advice that you could give people that are like, I'm confused about this whole thing and what I should do?
So my first recommendation is, if you've been given a diagnosis, which is just a name, if you've been given a diagnosis, look into that as much as possible from all parties. Each group is going to have their own spin, their own biases on it. And unfortunately now we have algorithms that are set up that are only going to give you one perspective. And there's a whole wide spectrum of research that is going on, but due to political pressure, they discount it. So
when you say algorithm, are you talking about computer and doing research,
about Google,
doing a Google
Bing,
search? Okay.
Yeah, they've passed laws that actually now hide and will purposely not show you all the research. It's only going to feed you whatever the World Health Organization.
One direction of where the money is.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay, how do we find the real information if I can't just go on Google? And I've noticed that over the years. I used to be able to search on Google for, like a home remedy for cold symptoms. And it used to be a pretty good list of variety. And now it's all Mayo Clinic comes up, and it's the same top 5, and none of them are natural by history. They're just mainstream medical. So
How do you find out?
How do I find the real information or other information? It's not that that information's bad.
No.
It's just, I know that there's more and I don't know how to find it.
Yeah, and so it's a good question. In all honesty, probably one of the best websites, and I give high accolades to this man, is Dr. Mercola, Joseph Mercola. And the reason being is you will see throughout his time, he's changed his position on things, and that's because new information comes out. And that right there means he's a good practitioner, because as new research comes out, new evidence, new clinical outcomes that he sees, he's like, ooh, you know what, originally we went with this, we really need to look this way. What I like with him, and I think it's a great resource for everyone, because he is in contact with all sorts of these different people throughout the world.
He doesn't have a heavy bias one direction or
no, because he'll tell you, and he's been deemed as, one of the most dishonest people, misinformation, but it's not. He gives you really good information.
That's been my experience. So for anybody that's listening and you've never heard of Dr. Mercola, it's been a whole thing. Like, it used to be very easy to go find information from him, and I think it was during COVID that he was shut down.
Mm-hmm. He was the #1 website source for non-conventional, I even hate to say that term, but for non-Mayo or non-Cleveland information. It was Dr. Mercola's site.
Is he a medical doctor?
He's an osteopath. Mm-hmm.
He's an osteopath. Okay, so it's not. He really has. If he has a bias, it would be really mainstream, and he's had to push against the.
Yeah, his history is really interesting, because he started off, I think, internal medicine, and just was not impressed, and just started doing more research, and has become who he is now, which is a giant in giving out information. And what I do enjoy about him is everything of his is actually sourced. It's research backed. He gives you the sources.
There's a million footnotes on anything I've seen.
And that's the beauty. Another good source people go to is actually PubMed.org.
PubMed.
Mm-hmm. And that is the government website where all research articles are put onto. Not all of them make it, like orthomolecular journals, which I'm a huge fan and subscriber of. Really love them. Dr. Andrew Saul is the lead editor for them. That has, majority of people in orthomolecular are actually medical doctors that do not buy into one size or one pill fixes all. So they follow after Linus Pauling, who was Nobel Peace Prize in 2 different areas, found out about vitamin C. It's the cheapest medicine on earth is vitamin C. Orthomolecular research, you can go online. They have tons of great articles. You can type in a symptom there. Between those two, those are probably the 2 easiest to access that are reliable information from reliable people.
Okay, so here's my problem. I have 24 hours a day. I do what I do, and I don't have 8-10 hours a day to do this research. That's why I need to find a partner that's what they're doing all day long, is this research and assimilating it and understanding how it works in their body and other people's bodies. And I want to go to a doctor and say, okay, I have a question. And I know that that doctor has done a whole lot more research than I have, and they can educate me. I don't find that to be a very easy...
That's just not the case most of the time.
Yeah, it's very hard. So as a result, I've just not gone to a lot of doctors. Sorry, I just don't.
Yeah. And
because I am afraid that I might get some information that's going to take me down a rabbit hole that I don't want to go down those rabbit holes. So it still begs the question for people that are listening, what do I do? How do I take the next step? And I feel like the world is coming to a place where you kind of have to find your tribe in a way. And you almost have to go through word of mouth. Who do you know I think that's what we're doing here with holding space practice, is creating some place where, like, okay, these people think like I think, and so maybe I can trust what they are saying and their research and their specialty. I don't know. Do you have other ideas of how people can connect to the information that they really want?
When you begin your journey, and it is a journey, it's a journey. And I always tell patients, if you come and see me, I'm not fast food, I'm not Netflix, I'm not Amazon Prime. Like, the body doesn't work that way. So it doesn't heal instantly. And that's one of the biggest disservices, is we live now in a society of instantaneous results. Mm-hmm. And the body doesn't work that way. So it is a journey. As long as you understand that it is a journey, you will be okay. Along that journey, you will have different coaches. I have patients that I'm like, you are only with me for this time frame. After that, you graduate on to somebody else. People that have a lot of emotional work, they need to go to somebody that specializes in helping you through that journey. Right. And that's just it. Most doctors, if they have the basics, they'll get you so far. And once they get you so far, that's when you've graduated from them, and somebody else will come about. You'll find out about somebody else, and then you move on to the next person until you find or you achieve whatever your optimal health is, your optimal results. But you have to address spiritual, emotional, physical, the chemical component. Like, all of those play massive components. And if you're not addressing and looking at all of those, then something will always be off.
So what is your area of specialty? What's the thing that you're like, if you want to work on this, you would come to me?
Chronic pain, just weird stuff. That's what comes. Just weird things, like, I really don't know what's going on. I typically am the person that can get you directed. We can lead you down so far, or I direct you to the right person. And that's most of the time who gets sent to me are the people that have tried the same person or numerous different people with the same results.
And the pain just doesn't go away.
Pain doesn't go away, or whatever, it's digestive pain, joint pain. Those are really the two big areas. They come to me, and I typically can get them. If I can't help them, I let you know. And then once you graduate from me, I put you on the right direction. Or if I know right off the bat, I'm like, after doing the exam, reading your history report, it's like, I think there's a bigger component here, which is emotional or spiritual, and then refer out to appropriate practitioners.
Gotcha. So holding space practice is more along the emotional lines. When I was treated by Dr. Blackwell, I thought, okay, so it was amazing watching him, honestly. It was like watching a dance almost, as he was treating some other people, and feeling that the things that were going on that I couldn't see, but I could feel. And I thought, he knows the body, like the anatomy. You know what to call the bones, and you know what point on the body is connected to the other point on the body, and so forth. And he was treating my daughter, and she says, well, why is this? Why do I have this deficiency? And he said, well, I don't know. I just know that you do, and I know how to make it better. And I thought that was really interesting. And I thought, well, that's where I pick up, because then I take that information and we look at, all right, where would that have come from? What experience has created that imbalance in that part of the body? So I love that there are these different specialties, but if I try to learn everything that you know, and you try to learn everything that I know, we wouldn't have time to help anyone, because we'd be studying all the time. Yeah. There's just not enough time. So I don't know what to tell you if you are looking for a particular doctor. If you break your bone, maybe it's a good idea to go to the emergency room and have it x-rayed and taken care of.
By an MD or DO.
Right. Yeah. If you are bleeding out, you should probably call the paramedics. Mm-hmm. They know what to do. And my daughter's a paramedic, and there are things in emergency situations that are another doctor would mess up.
And most people don't realize that most medical doctors, just because you're a doctor, doesn't mean you know what to do when a person's been shot. We all know to check vitals and try to decrease blood flow. That's where it ends.
Right.
Because there's so many subspecialties. We're not all the same.
So, yeah, I think that's a really important point to understand. If you want to work on getting pregnant, there's going to be different ways of going about doing that.
If you're not going to a nephrologist or a pediatric of any sorts.
Right.
For that.
Right. And there are specialties within the medical world. There are specialties within the chiropractic world. There are specialties within the spiritual world. Mm-hmm. So you just have to figure out who are you and what do you feel comfortable with. But I will say, I was raised, I hate this, honestly. I remember my parents saying, chiropractors are quacks. That's a quote. And
which
it
was probably from Dr. Fishbane.
Oh yeah, is that where they got it?
That's exactly where it came from.
And say they were quacks, so just discount that whole entire industry because you need to go to a professional that has knowledge and they will just hurt you. And it wasn't until I was an adult and I talked to somebody going to chiropractic school and he started to explain what the training was, and I'm like, that makes so much sense. And then even as a student, he began to do some treatments for me, and I'm like, that is working. I was in a lot of pain, a lot of muscular pain. And I went to, I thought, okay, I'm going to take care of this. I am going to get better. And I had no idea where to go. And maybe that's why I wanted to do this interview. I had no idea where to go. And we had insurance, so I thought I knew that there was a difference between MD and DO. So I thought, I'm going to choose somebody that has a DO behind the name, and I think I prefer a woman. Those were my criteria. And I found somebody that is near. That seemed like a plus, but I just didn't have any other criteria to go by. And I went to that doctor, and we did a total physical exam, and she gets through, and she says, well, you're very healthy. And I said, if I'm so healthy, why am I so tired and in pain with my muscles all the time? And she says, oh, you just need to do some exercises. And I'm like, okay, I'll do those exercises. I was committed. I was going to get better. And she had me doing, various exercises, and it got worse because it was stressing my muscles more. Nothing was releasing. It was they were just getting tighter and tighter instead. And that was when I thought there has to be a different way. And it has been a long, long journey for me. And I have relied heavily on knowing my yeses and my nos, on hearing the voice of the spirit, things that we talk about in holding space practice. And I don't know, that's how here I am, trying to help other people figure out where to go, how to get help. And this is, I guess you could think of this as an advertisement or whatever, but really, it's just a way of saying, we feel your pain, we know how hard it is, we would love for you to reach out to us. I will give you, in the description, I'll give you information for Dr. Blackwell. If you're like, yeah, I want to talk to that guy some more, and you already know probably about holding space practice, or you will get to know about holding space practice now if you're still on the video at this point, because it's pretty long. I think this is going to end up also being a podcast because this is really important information. I'm trying to find different ways of making it accessible for people. All right, so Dr. Blackwell, do you have one tip that you would give somebody that if they would just make this one change, if they haven't already started, what would be one thing that they could do to feel better if they have chronic pain of some sort?
Yeah, make sure you drink plenty of fluids with electrolytes.
Fluids with electrolytes.
Because most people are chronically dehydrated.
Okay, that sounds easy enough, right?
You would think so.
People are carrying around their water bottles all the time.
But are chronically dehydrated because they don't actually have essential minerals in it. And so if you don't, what happens? You flush out your potassium, magnesium, which then makes you more dehydrated, which is why people can literally die from drinking too much water.
Wow.
And that's why. And it is one of the number one items you can do right off the bat for yourself to help you to start to be hydrated. Because as your cells are hydrated, hunger pain goes down, you're getting rid of the toxins that your body has to get rid of. So at nighttime, as the body's repairing, all the stuff that it repairs, the refuse that it has to get deposited, right, through urine or through our fecal matter. And if you're not hydrating enough, then it's not circulating, it's not getting deposited, it just gets recirculated or gets stored in your fat cells.
Stuck inside your body.
First start by hydrating really, really well with electrolytes.
Okay, so I can imagine people running out and getting Gatorade. Good idea?
No, because that's just pure fructose, high fructose corn syrup.
So it's not as easy as just saying hydrate, because isn't that going to make us all go, oh, I just got to drink more water, but that's not sufficient.
No, and the water that has electrolytes in it, quote unquote, is not going to hydrate you either, because it does not have sufficient amounts. I've learned that firsthand. So you really want easy, inexpensive route that you can do is buy some Himalayan pink salt or Celtic sea salt. Take a pinch of that, put that in your water. Most of the time it'll actually be a little sweet. If it tastes salty, you put too much in. But those unadulterated salts actually have a lot of essential minerals in it. You can do that. If you just don't like the taste of water, there are different companies out there now that actually have really good packets that will use stevia, if you're not allergic to stevia or ragweed, or monk fruit, or if you can do xylitol, which can come from two different things, wood or corn. They'll use that as a sweetener. So you can actually get some really nice tasting flavors, but are high in electrolytes that will satiate the body's need for hydration.
Okay, I still have a lot to learn. And I think, do you have some information like on a website where you have those products or those kinds?
There are two products, yeah. Still, I think, is one, and there's another one that I've just started trying, which I like even better and has even cleaner ingredients. Not that the other one wasn't cleaner, just xylitol. Some people, based upon your GI tract, you can react to xylitol because of what it is. It's a prebiotic. It'll cause some GI distress in some people.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like we just need more and more and more information.
There's a lot. And
start with figuring out how to be properly hydrated, and that could make a lot of things better.
It will make a big difference.
Thank you for that tip. Thank you for this time to help us to educate ourselves just a little bit more about where do we go to find our help, to help us to feel better and to increase our health. So I think we might have to do this again sometime.
It'll be fun. Well, yeah, because I think we need to talk about Ayurvedic and Chinese Oriental medicine. We
didn't even touch on international or Eastern medicine, because that's
just really the traditional medicine.
Yes. And yeah, you already know that I love Ayurveda. That has helped me a ton.
Yeah, and I love Oriental medicine.
So, man, between the two of us, we've just got a ton of information.
There's a lot of information, and they're probably the best two kept secrets.
Ayurveda and Chinese medicine.
And Chinese medicine, on top of getting spiritual and emotional work done.
Yeah. Probably
the most powerful combo right there. Okay.
Let's keep going, and we'll see you next time. See you. For more resources, visit carolbwebster.com.